PTC Creo Parametric 3.0, Lesson 4. Lesson 4 is a part where we're actually going to use specific design dimensions and try to learn some design intent as we go. It is going to be a millimeter metric part, and so we have to set that, and we're going to set the materials and a few other things to add some information to the model itself. So first of all, normally what you want to do is you want to select your working directory, and I'm going to go into the one that I've been using and click on new, and this one is the clamp part. I'm just going to type clamp 1, hit enter, and I'm going to click on the model tab, not the production tab, the model tab. I'm going to start off by going to file, options, configuration, import, and import the config.pro, the one that we gave a specific name to. I know I named it new config. I'm going to go to the one that uses the textbook that you were supposed to have saved. So one problem with people who use the book, they might decide to divide everything by folders. So they put lesson 1 in one folder, lesson 2 in another folder, lesson 3 in another folder. And the problem with that is you have to navigate to get some of this information. And that can become a problem. So I'll click on OK. No. And I'm going to go and make sure all my datum tags are shown. And next I'm going to go and prepare by going to the model properties. You can see we have material, we have units. Let's go to the units first, and let's look closely at this. We want to select our millimeters and set. Now this defaults to the top choice here. We want to use the second one. Normally what you'll do is you want to interpret the dimension. So if you accidentally make something 1 inch, but you mean to make it millimeters, it's easy to change. Very seldom do you convert from 1 inch to 25.4. In other words, either direction. That's not a normal thing to do. Normally what happens is you forget to set your units. And with Creo, it's not that difficult to change it. There are systems that's more difficult. So if you just get in the habit of always selecting the bottom one, that's about 99.9% of the time the one you're going to need. We'll close these dialogues. And then let's look at the material. Change the material. And you can select from here. Let's select, you can double click or you can move it into the materials model over here. And you can click on your right mouse button, click properties, or simply double click on steel. And it gives you material definition. So normally you would fill in this information provided you by your company and how your design, what your design requires. Take a look at that. Later we'll do a little bit more in depth on material. Okay, close. And we're going to do something a little bit different. Many systems require you to have your sketch done and then you do your feature. We've been doing the feature first and then doing the sketch internally, which personally I think is better because it's embedded. In this case though, we're going to actually create an external sketch. Now don't get in the habit of doing this. Do whatever the book tells you to do. Don't decide to use external sketches from now on throughout the book, because that's not what it's telling you to do. If you need an external sketch and you're going to use that sketch in other features, that is the reason for having it separate from the actual command. In this case, the feature of the part, which is the solid. So we're going to click on sketch, and we could have pre-selected the front, but we're going to select it now. You can see this is the direction of viewing, and you can click middle mouse button or come all the way over and click on sketch. So this is staying in 3D, and we could sketch here, but let's go up and select the sketch view in 2D. And we'll start off by putting in a construction center line. Right mouse button, construction center line, and put a center line down the middle. Middle mouse button. You can see the icon that comes up, the constraint. Right mouse button, And let's create line chain. Now, I think what we did in the book, and I should have looked and I forgot, is let's go back over to the options and let's turn on our grid and our grid snap. Normally we don't use this, but in this case I want you to get used to it a little bit at least. So again, we're going to be doing a line, and I'm going to start, and what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to make it so that none of the lines that I sketch are the exact same length. So for instance here, I will go up 3, I will go over, let's go over 2, and let's go over 4, up 4. And if I made them the same, you'll see L and L show up. L1 equals L1 eventually. So you don't really want that to be equal any more than you want these two to be equal. So we'll go up a little bit higher, and we'll make it physically symmetrical. Come out 2 again. And you can see that we want some of these to be equal. Go all the way back to the beginning. Pull your cursor off middle mouse button twice. Now, you can come in here and you can actually adjust this a little bit if you want, but it's really not necessary. What you want to do is you want to look at the design intent, and the design intent will be determined by your dimensioning scheme. So if we go over here to the book, we'll see that we have T-shaped, upside down T-shaped cut and a protrusion, extrusion. So our first feature, basically what we're doing is we're just sketching it, and the dimensions that are put on there by the system. We don't really care about those. We do not care about the numbers either, and the numbers are not supposed to be the same as that which is in the book, because everybody's sketch should be different in the beginning. Do not change your numbers to the numbers I have here. What you want to change is the dimensioning scheme. So this is the dimensioning scheme that we want. This dimension here is a good dimension. Now, we could leave it there and then start putting in some other dimensions we might require. But if we do that, sometimes it will take out a dimension that we may need later. So if we really want this dimension, we can click on it and we can make it strong. Right mouse button, strong. Middle mouse button to finish it. And that dimension will remain. You can see it's a slightly different color. It will remain no matter what else we do. This here is also a good dimension, and we could move it, and we could make that one strong. Now, we really have to have a dimension from here to here. So if we click on the line, and then dimension, click on the line, and then middle mouse button, and then left mouse button. Now the other thing we need is we need from the bottom to the top here for the height dimension. These are good dimensions now. The problem is we got one extra dimension, and that's that half dimension. So we want to get rid of this half dimension. We don't delete it, we put a constraint on. And if we go up to our ribbon, we'll pick on symmetric, pick on the center line, and pick on 2 endpoints. If you look at the constraint here, this is the symmetry constraint. Now, if we continue on, click on the center line, and let's click on the 2 endpoints here. Now, it's saying, well, we got vertical, we got extra, we don't need all these, but I like to see symmetry. So I got rid of the vertical constraint and then put in symmetry. It basically does the same thing. Now, middle mouse button, and if you look at right mouse button choices here, basically what we want to do is we want to have the select active, and I'm going to window in everything on the screen. Right mouse button, modify. All these commands are in the dashboard also. And what you have to do is remember always to expand your modify dialog. If you don't, you're going to miss out on something. The other thing you want to do is you want to lock the scale and only change one dimension. You don't need to change them all. For instance, this 600 dimension. If we look at the book, 600 dimension is going to be 123. So this is the only one that we really care about, 123, and hit enter. And then leave everything else alone and leave it locked and click on OK. Now, 123 is a dimension we're going to keep, but the other dimensions are going to be altered a little bit. As I recall, this one is 23. I think this one is 52. We will check it later. And I think this one is 73. And I'm probably wrong about that, but I think I'm close. So I got them correct. So these are the design dimensions. It didn't make any difference what dimensions I started off with. These are the design dimensions because the shape of my sketch was the correct design. So I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to turn off this grid snap. I never work with the grid snap on, but I wanted to show you it exists. As you become more comfortable with a CAD system, usually you forget about the whole grid thing. All right, so I'm going to click on Control D, look at the sketch, and right mouse button OK, or OK in the ribbon. And you can see that this is just a sketch now over here in the model tree. And it's selected. Therefore, if I click on Extrude, it's going to automatically use that for my extrusion. I don't have to sketch inside. And I'm going to go over here and shade it with edges. Now, I do want it to be symmetrical. So I can put my cursor over the drag handle, right mouse button, symmetric. And I think it's 70. We will go back and check. That looks a little big. So basically, we want to extend this out, and it is 70. So we have 70. You can rotate it around if you want. If you want, you can always double-click on the dimension and change it. You could drag it to 70. And we have our first feature complete. I'm just going to click on my middle mouse button. Now, if we wanted to at this point, we could go and, let's say, select a different color if that's what we really wanted. Nope, we don't want that. So let's go and select this one and see what that looks like. And that's still a little yellow. So basically, you're going to try to find one. If you don't like what you got, you can remember, you can edit it. So let's see, I want something like that. And I can also come over here and take a look at my reflection. And a lot of times I like to have that be fairly bright. Not going to see it all the time. You can also add transparency at this point so that when you put another feature on here, you'll see that. And I think what we'll do is we'll just go to about 10, 15, somewhere in there. And if you look at the intensity, you'll see that this will change the ambient and the intensity of the color, make it look certain, a little bit different. So the reflection doesn't work that good when it's there. Well, there it is. But when it's got the transparency. But you can see a little bit through here, a little bit better. It makes the model look a little bit more easier to work with. We can also go in and under Options and under Model Display, we can change it to isometric. Once you have one, I'm going to go Control D, there's my isometric. Once you have one feature, you can go and change it to isometric. Okay, now the next thing is, let's look up here. We've got the sketch, and the sketch is grayed out. In other words, it's hidden. So let's go and unhide the sketch just so that we can see it. And my color isn't very good for that, is it? So again, let's try another color. And just leave it like that for now. So basically, we want to make a cut through here. And if you look at what's coming up as far as the next feature in the book, basically you're going to be using the same sketch, unlinking it, and then creating a cut. Now, what that means is this sketch is still active here, or available. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to go and, in fact, I don't think I'll click on it yet. I'm going to go back to my Model tab, and I'm going to click on Extrude, And then I'm going to click on the sketch, and it says it's remove material because it's the same size as the protrusion or extrusion that I had there. And this looks funny to people. They say, well, what's going on? Well, basically it's removing the material. And if I click on placement here, I want to unlink it from the original sketch because you don't want the extrusion and the cut to be the same size, then nothing would exist. Click OK. And now you're going to edit the internal sketch, or click Edit here. And as you do this, basically you can drag this if you want. It's one way to do it. Or you can go into your 2D here and you can drag it approximately like you want the size to be. Now, our sizes are 40, 30, 13, and 54. So this is going to be 40. I was fairly close. This is going to be 13. I happened to get fairly close on that one. This is going to be, what did I say, 54. And the last one is going to be 30. Again, move it off. Wherever you move these dimensions to, that's where they're going to show up on the drawing. So sometimes it's nice to set up your dimensions in the very beginning while you're doing your sketch so that you can see them when you go to the drawing. They're going to be off the face of the part, be more appropriately dimensioned. You're going to change them there anyway, but it's still nice to see your section like this. I'm going to rotate it a little bit, my middle mouse button, and right mouse button, OK. And you see there it cuts. And these arrows make a difference. Obviously, you don't want that. You can cut to the other side, but we want to cut both directions. So under Options, we want it to go through all on both sides, like so. Middle mouse button to finish it. Left mouse button to unselect it. Now, the next thing, by the way, you know, the lectures are one thing, and I try to add some information in that, but you must follow the steps in the book because there was a couple of things in the book that I did not do this time. And so you'll see a few variations. There's no only one way to do things. There's a variety of ways. There is a range of what's considered to be best practices or correct design intent. So you can't just do things, you know, willy-nilly. Can't do things like with other CAD systems in mind. You have to follow the procedures and the ideas set down by PTC as far as what they're saying that their CAD system is supposed to be used as, you know, in their procedures. All right, so we want to cut another notch out of here. And if I go down, it's a 20 by 20 notch, and it's on both sides. So analyzing the part is very important. It's going to be on one side. Well, you don't have to do it on both sides. So we're going to extrude, but we're also going to remove material. That's the same as clicking here. Now, we could sketch on here and cut down. We could sketch on the datum plane and cut up. We could sketch on this face and cut up. I always ask, vote on one of those three. Very seldom do people get this correct. You want to pick the datum plane because that's an earlier feature. It's a more stable feature. You don't want to pick on something that may change later. So select the datum plane, and we can go into Sketch View. Right mouse button. Let's go to References and click on this as a reference on this edge here. And right mouse button, let's do a construction center line down the middle. Middle mouse button. Now, next we can do a rectangle, or we could do lines. Let's do rectangle. Click here and here. And let's see if you can see this a little bit better. And you can see that the little symmetry icon will show up for you. Constraint, middle mouse button. And these are supposed to be 20. Now if I change one, let's say I want both dimensions on the drawing, then I leave and I change this one to 20. But if I don't care. I want these to be identical, I should say. If I come up here and I select my equal, I can say this and this are going to be equal. All right? So I only need one. I can rotate my part. Let's go back over to shading with edges. Now, when I conclude this one, when I end it, it's going to be pointing in that direction. Well, because we picked a datum planes have two sides. Didn't know which side to cut on. So click this and make it go up. And of course, we want to make sure we're going the right direction with our cut, facing into the cut, into the area we want to remove, not out. All right, and if you put your cursor over the top here, you could say to selected through until. There's a lot of, how about to selected? And then pick this top face. Check. Finish it. And now it's still highlighted, and because it's highlighted, it's a selected feature, and the mirror tool is available. Pick on mirror. Pick on your right datum plane. You can pick on it in the model tree if you wish. We won't preview the cut, the mirrored cut, unfortunately. And then you could hit enter. And you have the completed part. Now, to add a few things here, let's go and put an axis in and select the front and the right datum. Let's select whole. Pick on the axes. Hold down the control key, pick on the top face. And right mouse button on the drag handle through all. And we don't care about the size of the hole. Whoop. What I did is I came over and I accidentally selected another face or a datum plane, and that thought was the sketch plane. Here's the sketch plane. Here's where the sketcher, the tool is going to be on this surface. So we're going to put a hole on that surface. If I come over and I select something else, it's going to turn it. So you have to take a look. It's nice to have the placement open. You see the dialog here. It's a little bit easier to see what's going on. Click check. Now, let's go over and select round and pick on the top. Let's pick on an edge. Hold down your shift key and pick on the whole face. So we get a loop. And let's drag that a little bit, like so. And hold down your control key and pick on the edges here. Just put your cursor near where the edge should be. You don't have to, you can actually use your right mouse button to filter through, but you can also just find it by moving your cursor around it. Middle mouse button, we add around. This concludes lesson 4.